Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to introduce Christina Montoya today. First of all, she is a fellow indie author like myself. Her book, The Sacred Roots of Ofelia, Rosas, her and I were fortunate enough to be part of a panel at Su Teatro, and that's how I got to meet her. And I'm just really excited to share her journey with you today. She's multi-talented, let me just put it that way. And she's also part of this organization called CALMA, the Colorado Alliance for Latino Mentors and Authors. And her and I and several others have been working diligently to get this organization off the ground and to present all the wonderful literary works that we can to you all, because they're so deserving. And so we're just excited to bring that to you. And first of all, we're just going to share her journey and just let her tell us a little bit more about herself.
Well, first of all, Kim, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to finally be able to connect with you on here. I know we tried before, but you know, things happen, but I'm excited to be here now. And I just want to applaud you for taking the time to present all these videos and you know, your YouTube channel. I think it's great. And I think it's overall, I mean, we need to promote just Latinos who are doing good work and who are accomplished and who are just positive. I think that's, you know, that's a great thing, and that's what you're doing. So thank you for your work, and also your involvement with CALMA too. I know it's been a lot of work, but I know it's going to be worth it in the end. Yeah, so I'm a new author. I wrote that book, Sacred Roots of Ofelia, Rosas, a couple years ago. So I think I released it in 2018. And you know, it's been a lot of fun. I had a great time with it. It was you know, it was a learning experience because, as you mentioned, you know, I'm an indie author, and so, you know, just it's a huge undertaking to be self-published. I think that, you know, a lot of people don't realize how much work actually goes into self-publishing, and so it's been a lot of work, but it's rewarding at the same time. You know, I did have a couple of publishing offers from two small publishing houses, one in California, one out of New York. But, you know, I chose to do my own thing, which I didn't know how much work it was going to be at the beginning. But, you know, it's just, I don't know. I think when you write something that is so personal to you, which this book was, you just don't always trust to put it into somebody's hands, and you also don't trust that they're going to present it in the way that you're going to be you know, happy with.
It's your baby.
That's it. And that's what I think people don't realize. You know, you just spend so many hours, countless hours, just, you know, editing and going over and second guessing yourself.
Yes,
a lot of times, you know, and sometimes maybe rewriting parts, that's part of the editing, but I think that, you know, you just don't want to hand that over to somebody and trust that they're going to, you know, present something that you're happy with, like I said. And not only that, you know, you just want to be proud of your work, because you're going to go out and present this to the world, you know. And a lot of it, I think too, is, you know, a reflection of just who you are, you know, as a person. And so, you know, I would like to think that I'm the type of person that, you know, just takes pride in the things that I do, and, you know, always produce things that are quality, you know, quality things, and honest at the same time. So so I self-published, and I really learned a lot, though. You know, if there are writers out there considering, you know, which road to take, because you will have to make a decision at some point, you know, the self-publishing journey is, like I said, it's a challenging one, but at the same time, I mean, it's so rewarding, because if later on you want to be published, you have learned all the steps, and you know what, you know, the verbiage is, and you'll know, you know, you're just better educated about the whole process. So I think that it's not a bad thing at all. And so, you know, I'm happy that I did it that way. I don't know how I'll go about it the next time, because I am writing again. It's taken a while, but I don't know how I'm going to go about it this next time. But like I said, it's a great learning experience, and had a lot of fun with it.
Well, a couple of things. I think that when you do this process, you do learn so much about it, especially if you are not familiar with the industry. And I know, so I'm going to ask you first a little bit more about the book, and then we can go into the industry that you actually have been in for the past 20 plus years. And so we can talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But give me a little synopsis of The Sacred Roots of Ofelia Rosas, and what is it about, and why is it so close to your heart?
So this book is loosely based on my grandmother, very loosely, but it's a series of short stories. That's kind of how I started writing it. And there's different writers write different ways. This is the first thing I've ever attempted. I'm, not really a writer, or didn't consider myself a writer. I didn't consider myself a writer until I did this. So it was just kind of exploring and trying to tell different stories, but the main thing is just getting good messaging across, and so positive messaging. And so I started out just writing, short stories, and then I kind of like midway kind of found a common connection. And so, it's all based on this grandmother. Well, the stories are based on her grandchildren. Ofelia is the grandmother. And, she's just kind of like a spirit guide, I guess. It's, the book is kind of teeters on the magical realism side a little bit. And so she's just a spirit guide. And, she's just really provoking her grandchildren to do good in the world. And that's really what the messaging is about, all throughout the book. And so, these characters have their own lives and they're doing their own things. They have their own challenges, as we all do. But she's just kind of that positive driving force in their lives that always helps them to kind of turn that corner and to, make the best of their own story. So that's really what the book is about.
Well, I absolutely loved it. And there are so many nuggets of wisdom and inspiration throughout the entire book. Like every story just has something powerful to say. And so I would recommend it to anybody. So it's beautiful. And then the ending, which I won't reveal. That has to be my favorite part. It brought everything together, and it was so heartwarming and brought tears to my eyes because I'm such a baby. And a hopeless romantic. So.
Oh yeah, well, and I think too, the great thing about the book is that I think that because originally a lot of women thought, or a lot of people anyway, thought that it was just a book for women. And then I had a lot of guy friends who read it, and they were just like, "Oh, I really liked your book," and I'm like, "Okay," but I think it's for everybody. I think that there is, because there's male characters, there's female characters, but I think that there's something to be learned. Anybody can learn anything from that book, and I think everybody will take at least one thing from the book. But whether it's sad, it's happy, it's there's love, there's romance, there's a whole bunch of things in there. So sometimes I think like, where was my mind going with this? It's kind of all over the place, but I think it does make sense. To me anyway, it makes sense. And I got a lot of really good feedback from a lot of people who enjoyed it. And to me, it's kind of like, that's the biggest reward. I didn't write it to like, oh, I want to get rich off this. And, especially if you are, self-published, it's pretty difficult, to make money. And, but to me, that wasn't the reason why I wrote this book. It's purely inspirational. And I think it's part of my own personal legacy.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I've ever done anything good in the world, it's put that book out. And so, so I think that everybody can learn something from it. And it, like I said, I think the biggest reward for me is just hearing what it has done for people. Some people are just like, God, I've just been so challenged and trying to find my personal purpose in life. And, for me, that's, if I just wrote it for one person, then that's enough for me.
Absolutely. And every character that you created and developed throughout each of the short stories has a story to tell, and they have a background, and they have, again, like you said, their challenges, and they have their strengths, and they have these things that they go through. And so, and they do offer inspiration through Ofelia, which is really, really cool. That is like the thread that binds everyone together. So again, I really enjoyed it. I loved it. And again, I would just recommend anybody to get the Sacred Roots of Ofelia Rosas. Then you can find it on Amazon, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. And just going back to the journeys of these characters, let's talk a little bit about yours. I think the reason why we had done this already before, which because of technical difficulties, we lost it. Oh my gosh, it was horrible.
It happens, yeah.
But we had done this because you are from Del Norte in the San Luis Valley, and that's where your family is originally from. And so you fit into the successful in the San Luis Valley profile that I was trying to get out there for the world to see. And so tell me a little bit about your journey, just, where your family is from, and, some of the struggles and the strengths and the experiences that you've had along the way that have brought you to this point.
Well, yeah, so like you mentioned, my family's from Del Norte. My dad was born there. They came to Denver when he was probably in elementary school around that time. And so I'm a native of Denver. So let's see, there's a lot. I'm like, I don't know what to share because there's a lot, but I was, I didn't always have like a lot of people to look up to when I was growing up. A lot of positive people or a lot of support, I would say. And so kind of been on my own since a very young age, had a lot of different family dynamics that, kind of forced me to grow up fast. And so I became a teenage mom. I had my son when I was 15, and my son's going to be 27 now. So, but, it had a lot of struggles, but, I guess, if you didn't have struggles, you wouldn't be who you are, and sometimes I was just like, God, why does this have to happen to me, but now that I just like reflect on a lot of things that have happened in my life, I'm like, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. And not only that, I think I wouldn't be able to help other people, I think that, I'm really big on just like imparting wisdom and, encouragement just to people in general. A lot of times people are like, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I don't really know what I do, but I do a lot of things, and sometimes it's just like, just planting those little seeds in people and watering and helping people to grow, just as a person. And, I think I wouldn't have been able to be as effective had I not been through my own, struggles in life. And so let me see, I could talk a little bit more about after, I was a teenage mom and just always worked 2 jobs to provide for my son, and, did all those kind of things. I really just grew up with him, and I'm not really educated. Thank God I'm like, even at a young age, I don't know, I always considered myself, pretty intelligent. And so thank God I had that, I think I've gotten this far probably off of that alone. But like I said, going back to the family support and just a lot of different issues that happened, I only really went to the 8th grade. So I never went to high school. And then I had my son, so I was working. I went straight to work. And at that time it was like school isn't really an option, it's just, I had to work, and that's what I did. So, I think, God, I could have did so much. And, I wish I would have had that experience, went to college and did all that kind of stuff. But, you just never know what life has in store and why. And, but I think I've done okay for myself. I was working in Denver Public Schools for a few years, and I was working with at-risk youth, and I was doing that kind of thing. And I really loved that work. But, as you know, like, in education doesn't always pay the bills, and I was a single mom. So, and I was just like tired of working 2 jobs and those kind of things. So I ended up getting into law enforcement. And so I've been in law enforcement for 21 years, just celebrating my 21st anniversary. And so it's been an interesting life. It really has taught me a lot about, people, and I've just seen a lot, experienced a lot, but I think, in this type of profession, a lot of people can get very hardened, very bitter with life. And I think with me, it's kind of been the opposite, whereas I made it a priority just to live a very balanced life. And so, through my travels and, community service and things that I really love to do, I have really made that a priority just to keep the balance, in my life. And I think had I not made that a priority, I might be a very different person today, because some professions, can change you.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that's a little bit of my background.
That's amazing. I mean, so here you are in the, eighth grade, and you've got some family dynamics that have prevented you from continuing going to school. You have to work, and then you have a son. You get into law enforcement that you've been in for the past 20 plus years. You're involved in other organizations. You wrote a book. I mean, I would say that you are an amazing success story, and you, your voice, your experience is an inspiration to so many. So thank you for sharing that. It's just been a pleasure to work with you, and your energy and your spirit are just, I think, give energy to our group for one, and your focus on really wanting to uplift others and to make a difference that way, I think is so powerful, and it's so refreshing in this day and age. You know, and you talk a little bit about just, I think people can get jaded, and that's probably in every profession, but in being in law enforcement, especially in this day and age, I can see how that could be really a struggle. And I mean, I'd love to hear your take on the current climate with people wanting to defund the police and, you know, all of this negativity towards law enforcement. And you know what we're experiencing with COVID and just all the you know struggles that we're all dealing with. And so if you'd like, you know, share a little bit about what your thoughts are on all that.
Yeah, well, you know, I think we're just living in a very just crazy time. I don't think anybody, you know, expected this. I think I talked a little bit about this before. I think that there are a lot of issues that are being addressed right now that have needed to be addressed for a long time. You know, when you talk about racism and, you know, those kind of things just as a whole, you know, even, I know it's the Black Lives Matter movement, but, you know, Latinos too have faced their own discrimination and racism throughout the years, and we've had some of the same struggles. So I think that, you know, I agree with how a lot of the voices have been very vocal about, you know, some of these issues. You know, I don't always agree with the ways that they go about it, you know, but I think peaceful protesting obviously is a great thing, and, you know, people have done that for many years and it's very effective. So I agree with that. I support that. Yeah, so just the climate, I mean, just with law enforcement as a whole, I mean, I think that I saw some post the other day that was saying something to the effect that, you know, the people that have a lot to say about law enforcement and all the wrongdoings and things like that, perhaps that they should be the ones to take these positions, you know, and show people how it's done and just change the system. Because, you know, and how can we do that when there's so much negativity, you know, surrounding the profession? You know, I shared a story a while back that, you know, my dad was involved in the Chicano movement back in the 70s, Brown Berets, and later on he went to law enforcement. And, you know, a lot of people don't understand how, because I belong to a couple of Latino law enforcement groups, and they don't understand either how we've faced our own discrimination within the department. And we worked really hard to, you know, climb the ranks, get into leadership positions, those kind of things too. So, you know, there's a lot of things to talk about. There's a lot of issues to cover. But yeah, I mean, I just hope that, you know, we can find more common ground. And I think, you know, even before all this stuff happened, I think that policing was kind of working towards more community policing, getting involved with the community, which I think is very important. You know, I've been doing it for years through, you know, community service, through organizations. And you have to be out there, you know, you have to know the people that you're serving. That's why it's also really important that, you know, these departments be diverse, because, you know, you can't really, some neighborhoods are not receptive if you're not a person of color, you know? And so I think that that's really important too. And I think just changing the whole mindset around what a negative profession it is. You know, it can be very rewarding too. And I think that people forget about the good things that law enforcement does, public safety in general, that they do on a daily basis. You know, I've seen some really good people. Are there bad apples? Of course, like in any other profession, there is, you know. I feel like, there does need to be more accountability. There does need to be some changes made. So yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, I would just ask people just to remember, the good things, and when something bad happens, who do you call? And those people will always be there, and sacrifice their lives for other people. So
It's servanthood. It really is.
yeah.
And so it is very, very important. I love what you said about community building and getting involved and learning about who you're serving and working together, because when you work together, I think you can build empathy for one another and compassion and an understanding, and I think there's more trust that gets built, and we can all grow as a community, as a society, when things like that happen. So,
and that's why I said I'll go back to that point that I made. I mean, we do need to have diversity in our departments, because I understand the neighborhoods and stuff. I live in Denver. I came from the inner city, and I understand that. So I probably would deal with things a little bit different than somebody who maybe came from the suburbs and doesn't understand people of color. So I think that's why it's really important that we still push that. Yes, law enforcement can still be a career that is very noble, and you can really help people still. And so I'm hoping that we'll see what the changes are, and we'll just have to see what happens. It's definitely a very interesting time.
For sure, and hopefully there'll be some growth all the way around, in the right direction, in the positive direction.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you for sharing all that. Let's talk a little bit about CALMA, and tell me a little bit about your involvement and how you came to become a part of this group.
Well, this is kind of birthed out of a conversation amongst me, Frank Davila, and Arturo Jimenez. And we just talked about, because we had all become authors at our debut books around the same time. And we just talked about, bringing other authors together, and just kind of being a stronger force, in that arena. And we knew of other authors, so we kind of just started talking about that. Frank kind of led the charge, I would say. And and then we just brought a couple people in, and we became the founding members, and we've been working ever since then. And so our main goal really is to encourage other writers to publish their works. We need to really have a voice in literature altogether, and that goes all the way across the board. I'm talking about textbooks, everything, novels, poetry, all the way across the board. So we want to be that hub that, supports other writers in their endeavors, in their writing endeavors. So that's really what we've been trying to build.
Absolutely. And I think in Colorado, this is where we all live, and this is where we all work, and this is where our home is. And I think that there's so much history and so many stories to tell from here, and so many deserving works that aren't available and marketed to the mass public. And so I'm hoping that that's one of the outcomes from this organization as well. I know there's some books that have been published, but they're not necessarily either on Amazon, or they're not marketed out into the general public, or people don't know how to access them. And I think that's, hopefully we can help with that too. And then you talked a little bit about the struggles of publishing, and how expensive it could be, and, not knowing where to go. If you were in law enforcement, or you are in law enforcement. I was a teacher in education. And so when you come from two different industries and you write a book, and all of a sudden you're learning about what the publishing world is like, it's very, very different. And there's lots of things that you have to learn. And so there is that learning curve, I think we can hopefully meet for a lot of these aspiring writers and authors as well. And so I'm really excited. I'm so super excited to get this going. I guess one of the other questions I have for you is if you could share with us how CALMA is also hoping to showcase or build the authors and the information that'll help all of us sort of move forward toward that next step of, putting us out there.
Well, I think going back to your point, Kim, when I started writing, I didn't really know of any authors at all. in Denver or in Colorado. So, had I known somebody, I would have reached out and said, hey, can you help me, or just at least guide me in the right direction? I mean, I just did all my research on, online, and just hoped for the best, really, and thank God everything turned out the way it did. But I think that there's a real need to mentor, not only upcoming writers and authors, I think just people in general, because going back to the point that you were talking about, there's books that may not be available on Amazon, but they're out there. They probably came from smaller publishing houses, and the promotion just isn't there. And knowing, you too, I mean, you've gone through it too. Promoting your work is that's one of the main things that you have to do, on your own. And, you have to use social media. You have to, just expand your network. There's just a whole bunch of ways that you can do that. But I think that's one of the things that, we are going to be focusing on how to mentoring writers and how to help them get their work out. Because it's so important. And I mean, it's when I wrote my book, after it wasn't really my intention to publish it so much. Mm-hmm. It was more so I don't know, just a personal goal, I guess. But after I wrote it, I read it, I reflected on it, and I said, now I feel responsible to share it with people. Mm-hmm. That's the reason why I published and all that stuff. So I could just imagine how many works there are out there that have not been published. Nobody knows about. They're sitting on somebody's computer. They're sitting on somebody's desk.
Yes.
And this is critical for us to tell our own stories, and to learn from each other, support each other's work. So this is what CALMA hopes to do. Bring in those writers.
A few things. I think you're an amazing catalyst for this group, because you have done an amazing job with social media and, promoting the Sacred Roots of Ofelia Rosas, and also promoting other authors. The Latino Roundtable that you hosted on Instagram was amazing. And it was so cool for me to hear all of the other writers and authors and all the different genres that are out there, with Latina authors that are spread across the US and London. And actually, she's from Texas. So, but she lives out there. And so just all the experiences and the personal stories that come from these networking sessions and stuff like that, I think is really, really powerful. Because we can't know, or we gain inspiration from others, and and we can't do this alone. And that's what I think is so powerful. I did have a couple of authors that took the time to sit with me and tell me what their journeys were like and what they did. So Jody Brownlee, Emily Harrington, Mona Lovato, all of these people sat with me or talked with me, spent some time with me over the phone and shared what they did. And it was through their promptings, and their example, that I was able to do some research and on my own for my own work, and I'm so grateful for that. And so, I think what you do to connect people through social media and your voice through this group, I think is very, very powerful. So,
well, Kim, I wanted to say two things really quickly. Mm-hmm. One was that, we're not in competition with each other. You know what I mean? We're not. And, the more works, I'm happy to support other writers, because I know the struggle of what it is to write. And, and I value, the voices and the hard work. And so why wouldn't I want to promote that? So any chance I get, I have to promote your work, because, well, first of all, I loved your book and I think it's good. And another reason is because, over the summer, I did do a lot of reading. I finally caught up on some reading and stuff. Mm-hmm. But, I read a lot of work by self-published authors and authors too that, big name authors. And my thought was that, a lot of these self-published authors, their writing is just as good, if not better in some cases, than big name writers. And I'm like, this is such an injustice. Talk about injustice.
Right?
Yeah. And I'm like, we really have to support, we have to promote. This is so important for us. And books last forever. That's something that never really goes away, especially now in the digital world, So this is stuff that it's important, because, especially for the young people need to see themselves reflected in stories, in media, on TV. I mean, we can talk about a whole bunch of other things, but they really do need to see themselves reflected in these books. I was working in DPS. I think I was like I had just turned 18, and I was working with a Latina teacher. I think she was from California or something. But I remember for my birthday, she gave me the House on Mango Street, not Cisneros. And that was the first time I even saw a Latina writer. I was like, oh, wow. And after that, I started collecting works and books from Latino writers. And so, it's just those little things. And we have to make these things available for our kids. So, and now a lot of children's books are coming up with kids of color, which I love. I support that. I love that so much. But yeah, I mean, it's just telling our stories all the way, all across the board. It's just telling our stories.
Telling our stories from our own voice, from our own perspective. Now we'll know what happened in Denver. We'll know what happened in San Luis, in the Valley, northern New Mexico. And that voice won't be, there won't be a gap anymore. So
well, I've been reading a lot of articles just about, I don't want to quote the numbers, but how underrepresented Latino writing is, books are not only underrepresented but misrepresented too, just like in media. So I think it's so important, and we have to write our own history, like you said. I mean, I had people I know you talked to Ricardo the other day, but just writing about like Chicano history and all those kind of things, because this is stuff that's not necessarily taught in textbooks.
Right, it's not. Jose Almayo, the book Color of Duty, I'm so excited about that because he presents all of many biographies of Latino veterans going back to World War I and World War II. And so that's really important for people to know, that we have been an integral part of this nation, for generations, for centuries, So, and if he went to publish that book, then, there wouldn't be, there wouldn't be a basis for knowing what existed. I go back to that movie Walkout. If it's not written, it didn't happen, And
you know what, Kim? And that's the other thing I was just thinking about, how, what a privilege it is that we can self-publish, because now we don't have to, we can bypass the gatekeepers of these big publishing houses and stuff. That means we have to work a little bit harder, of course, with promotion and things. But I feel like now, since we have all of that, all those tools in our box, that, our voices cannot be silenced, and they won't, and I feel like we're going to grow, and our movement is going to grow, in terms of our writing and these books, and let's get them out, and let's present them to the world. And that's what I hope that we're going to be doing with CALMA. I'm so excited about this. And
I love it. Yeah. What you said is absolutely perfect. And again, it's every genre and every experience, it's not necessarily about history or politics or anything like that, but sometimes it's a personal story that you went through when you were growing up, or a personal experience that you dealt with, and how that experience, who's waiting for that story to get inspired. That's, I think, what we have to keep in mind all the time, that there's somebody that is waiting for your story,
Well, I have met so many people that said, oh, I want to write a book. I'm like, well, do it. You know what I mean? You just have to do it. Once you sit down and you write that first page, a second page comes, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I have a whole full manuscript, But it's just starting. And I think that's why CALMA is going to be so important to this, to the overall future of the writing in Colorado, because, we really have to be there to encourage these writers, keep going. Frank Davila, one of my mentors, if had it not been for him, who knows if Ofelia would ever really be out. He proofread for me. He said, keep going. I was like, doubted myself. I said, I don't think this is good enough, because, I really didn't consider myself a writer. And so, sometimes you just need to hear somebody say like, no, this is good. Somebody needs to hear this, like you said, and, just keep going. So if we can be that for people, then I'm happy to be a part of it.
Absolutely. Well, two things I just wanted to say. First of all, we can find The Sacred Roots of Ofelia Rosas on Amazon, right? Right. And so look for the author, Christina Montoya, or the title, The Sacred Roots of Ofelia Rosas. And secondly, look for CALMA and the website that Christina has so diligently been creating behind the scenes, called CALMA Co. CALMACO.org. And you can find on that page, first of all, a featured author every so often. Right now it's Frank Davila, and there's also an author page with at least 30 plus authors so far.
I think there's 50, but there's like 15 that are active right now. Yeah, we're still trying to get these authors together. It's a big undertaking, but you know, we're working towards it. It's a work in progress for sure. Yeah.
You'll find their bio, you'll find a picture, you'll find whatever social media they're involved with, if it's Facebook, if it's Instagram, if it's YouTube, or if it's a connection to where you can find their book and access it. So I'm really excited about just moving forward with all of this, this work, because I think it's just going to be a blessing for so many people, and it's been a blessing for me also for long. So.
I was thinking the other day when I was working on the website, I just saw, these authors and the work that they've done, and I was like, I'm just so honored just to be considered in the same category as a lot of these people. I mean, they're accomplished not only as writers, just in their lives, and so I think it really just builds a positive platform, for our young people too, and as other aspiring writers, just to say, wow, these people, I want to be, in the company of some of these writers, because they're some phenomenal people.
Absolutely. And the cool thing about it is that they're all willing to help, and I love that.
Yes.
So my last question to you is there any other advice that you would give to someone? You've already shared a lot of really cool things, but is there any specific advice that you'd like to give anyone that would follow in your footsteps? Being in law enforcement or becoming a writer and author, what would you say?
I think, now that I'm in my 40s, I feel like I'm just like now my true authentic self, and I wish that I would have learned that earlier, and not been so hesitant because of, what people thought of me, trying to please other people, trying to be somebody I wasn't, and now it's just, I feel like I'm really blossoming into my true self. Maybe that does happen with age, I don't know, but just in your career, you need to really do something that you love and that you're passionate about. That's really important. And just like I said, going back to living a very balanced life, do things that you love, do things that you enjoy, surround yourself with people that are uplifting, people who are going places, people that you want to emulate. You have to surround yourself with these kind of people. It's really important. And they also challenge you. Go around people that will challenge you to be a better person, and to climb in your career and to do other things. And, with the writing, like I said, I'm working on a second book. It's getting there, it's page by page, but it's totally different than Ofelia Rosas. It's very different, but I don't know, at some point I do want to write something that is 100% honest, so I think with the writing, you really do have to be honest. I mean, it's kind of hard when you're writing fiction, but even when you're writing fiction, there's still going to be parts of you in it. There's still going to be parts of you in it. I think that's just the nature of writing. But just telling your story and being your authentic self, all the way around. Just be who you are, be who you want to be, and just keep growing every day. Keep growing, and do some good in the world. It's not all about you. There's something greater than yourself, and you just gotta do something good. I write this in my book. Just do something.
I love it. Oh my gosh, I couldn't have said it better. Just perfectly stated. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking with you and working with you. From the day that we met with Su Teatro, it's just been an amazing experience working with you and getting to know you.
I'm so blessed that our paths have crossed, and everything happens for a reason, and I'm so happy to work alongside you and the other founders of CALMA, just wonderful people. I'm learning a lot myself, so I can't wait for this. I'm so excited.
Yeah, same here. Well, thank you so much, and
Kim.
Have a great afternoon, and enjoy your evening and the rest of your weekend.
Thank you, Kim. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon. And once again, Ofelia Rosas on Amazon. And thank you again, Christina. You have a great evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you everybody for watching. This has been a La Gente Legacy production and the CALMA series. Stay tuned for more from Successful in the SLV.